Hey everyone, it's Shelby here. Welcome back to A Little Literary Love. I'm glad you're with me because today's video is going to be another wrap-up video. I will be talking about all the books that I read in the end half of November. But before we get into talking about all of those books, please make sure if you enjoy this video to hit that thumbs up button and also subscribe if you haven't already. If you're enjoying my content, I post videos every Thursday and Sunday and we have a great time here. So let's get into what I'm going to be talking about today. So I did a little bit better in the end half of my reading in November. I read 5 books. This is still a slower reading month for me for this year. I feel like as the months have gone on, my kids are getting a little bit older. I'm having a lot more stuff that I'm having to do in my home life, so I haven't been reading as much, but that's okay. I did read some pretty good books that I enjoyed, so we're going to get right into them, starting off with The Scent of Us Part 2. This is the second book in the Bond Dissolution series. There is a third book that is after this one that is about a different pack. It's like a side character that we meet in books 1 and 2, but this is the conclusion to this like duet that is about like from the first book, the female main character and her pack. So this is their story conclusion. So in this one, the female main character of the story, her prior pack that she was with, the pack that she dissolved the bonds with, is trying to make things a little bit harder for her. They are protesting and making things harder against the clinical trial company that helped her dissolve those bonds. So her and her pack are trying to formulate and come together to stop them from happening and stop them from harassing her. So I gave this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed this one. This one is a BIPOC author, so there's a wide variety of diverse characters in this one, which I love seeing. I really like this one too because the female main character that is in both of these 2 duets, she really comes into her own in this second part. I really love seeing her character growth from book 1 to book 2. She becomes much more independent and strong and much more fierce, and I love seeing that. I also really love seeing there's a little bit of a slow burn with these 2 stories with some of the members of her pack, because it ends up becoming a pretty large size pack that she is with. Very polyamory kind of scenario, but there are a couple of members that she isn't with yet until like almost the very end of this book. So I enjoyed seeing their like slow burn romance with some of those members and how they finally like realized, oh wait, I'm actually attracted to this person and I want to be with them. So esteem on this is very high. I really enjoyed this one, and I definitely want to read more Ileana Lee books. I will read the 3rd book of this series, and then she has a new book that is coming out that is also a megaverse, and I'm just super excited to read it. Then I read Hood Feminism, Notes from the Women That a Movement Forgot by Mikki Kendall. This is a nonfiction book, not a romance. So this one, I did this as part of my goal to try to read more nonfiction. So this one has discussions on feminism, but how that the feminism movement neglects marginalized people. That it talks about how the feminist movement tends to focus on the white voice. So this also covers a variety of topics are covered in this, including rape culture, gun safety, food security, poverty, education, and a slew of other topics, and how feminism relates to that, and how the feminist movement and voice needs to encompass all of these different topics. And that the feminist movement should be a movement for all peoples, like I said, not just the white voice. So this one, I mean, I gave it a 4-star rating. To me, reading or rating nonfiction books is kind of hard to do. Like, I don't really know how the best way to like critique nonfiction books. I did feel like this was a very powerful book, and I'm glad that I read this book. A lot of the concepts and topics that were placed in this book. The author, I did listen to this on audiobook, which I think was perfect because the author does narrate it herself. She talked about how that she brings up a lot of topics that might be uncomfortable, and she's trying to make it so that we face some of these uncomfortableness. But because I have already started reading some different nonfiction books talking about racism, a lot of the concepts she brought up were not new ones for me. So I didn't necessarily feel that uncomfortableness. But again, I feel like this was still a very profound book to read. I liked all of the information that is packed into this book. And I would definitely recommend reading that if you are looking for something, wanting to read more about racism, marginalized people, feminism. So I did really enjoy it. And then back to the romance books. Then I read The Whore Kings of Shadow by Zoe Draven. I did get an arc of this. I was very surprised that I got an arc of this. Zoe Draven is a pretty big author, so the fact that I got this, I was like so excited. So this is a fantasy romance. This has our female main character. She is the bastard daughter of the king. And then we have the king of the Sarathian horde that he comes in on Dragonback, rides into their kingdom and makes a deal with her. Kind of, sort of a deal. It's also sort of a forced marriage, but he makes a deal with her that if she marries him, then he won't kill her family. But he is wanting, she has these magical abilities, like she has the gift of sight, and she keeps seeing visions of these dragons. She also keeps seeing visions of Heartstones, which is a power source for the Sarathians, and then also for her kingdom as well. So he is wanting her to come with him, get married to him, so that he can kind of use her ability to help find the Heartstones, because they are like dying out and they can't find them. But in order for her to be accepted by his people as his chosen queen, she has to be able to claim a dragon of her own. So I quite enjoyed this one. I gave this one 4.5 stars. I devoured this book. I couldn't put it down. I loved the whole dragon aspect of it. I thought that was so cool. I really enjoyed both of our main characters in this one, especially the female main character, because she is very much like a scholar. She likes knowledge, and that's how I am too. I love learning things. And so she just wants to learn about these new people and discover new things, and she wants to know their history. But then it's also a challenge of trying to figure out, and she's placed in like this dragon riding school, and she's taking these classes so that she can try to claim a dragon, and it's very dangerous. But then they also, like, the dynamic between both of them, it's kind of it's got a little bit of that forced proximity kind of trope in it. And their budding lust for each other, and how they slowly start to fall in love with it. I gobbled it up. I loved it. This takes place in the same world as her Whore Kings of Dakar series. I only read the first book of that series, but I do want to continue reading the rest of that series. But you do not have to read that series to be able to read this one. This one can be read completely as a standalone. I think, I'm not for sure. I think that this will be a series, maybe. But yeah, I thought it was great. Loved it. And then I read Rogue Games by Reese Barton. This is another arc that I read in November. This is the first book of the Alpha Games series that she is doing. This is a paranormal romance. And this also, I think, is a kind of a spinoff of some other Reese Barton series. I could tell that some of the characters probably popped up in other books by her, but it didn't necessarily affect the story. So this one is, our female main character is a rogue shifter. She kind of weasels her way into competing in the Alpha Games that is taking place in order to try to find her missing mother. The Alpha Games are taking place in this pack territory that had previously been closed to any outsiders. So then the male main character of this story is the alpha of that pact, and he is having to open up his borders, and he is very leery of all of these new people in his territory. And so the two of them are very suspicious of one another because she thinks he has something to do with her missing mother. And he also is very suspicious of what she's wanting to do because she's kind of snooping around, but they can't help but be drawn to one another. They have this just magnetism towards one another. So this one I gave 4 stars. I did really enjoy this story. I really enjoyed the sexual tension between these two characters. I also really love the depth of these two characters because both of them have pretty traumatic pasts. There's definite trigger warnings in this one, including missing family member, death / murder of a family member, physical assault, and potentially sexual assault. Nothing on page. It's just kind of alluded to that some of that stuff happened in the past. But I did really enjoy this one. Then the last book that I read for November is going to be Blockshot by Kennedy Ryan. This is the second book of her Hoops series. This is a contemporary romance. This is a second chance romance. Our female main character and our male main character were friends in college. And then they had a one-night stand together, but she thinks that he did it because he was trying to get into the secret society. So then she wanted nothing to do with him. And so years later, they are in the same profession. They are both sports agents, but they work for different companies. But his company that he kind of created with his brother is wanting to bring her into their company because they think she's a great asset. But she wants nothing to do with him because of said things that happened in the past. But again, they have a great sexual chemistry, and he is the kind of person that he doesn't take no for a no as an answer, and that's gotten him far in his businessy world. So he's wanting to try to wear down her walls. So this one, unfortunately, I feel really bad about this because I love Kennedy Ryan. This is the first Kennedy Ryan book that I've read that I did not like. I gave this one 3.5 stars because I can appreciate the growth that these characters went through in this book. I can appreciate that. And I did really like, we do get an HEA at the end. However, this has cheating trope in it. She is in a relationship with somebody for a good chunk of this book, and they sleep together. This is kind of spoilery, I'm sorry. And I just didn't, that's just not okay with me. I didn't really care for that. Cheating trope is one of those tropes that I do not really care for. I can read it in certain circumstances depending on how it's done. It was not done the greatest in this one, in my opinion. And I really didn't care for, I liked the female main character for the most part. There are some bits in here that she really annoyed me, especially when it came to her cheating on her boyfriend with our love interest. But for the most part, she was like a good, independent, strong female character, which I love. And usually Kennedy Ryan does a great job of that in her books. So this is no exception to that. However, I also didn't really care for the male main character. He was kind of an asshole, to be honest, and not in a good way. I also didn't really like her boyfriend that she cheats on. He's supposed to be this like very sweet person, and he becomes very manipulative at one point in this book. And she also has chronic illness brought up in this, and just how everything was done, I was like rolling my eyes through a good chunk of this. this was not a me book. Like I said, I love Kennedy Ryan. I will still love Kennedy Ryan. I do plan on continuing and finishing this series, and I would like to read all of Kennedy Ryan's works because I think she's absolutely amazing. This one is just, it was not for me, and I did not care for it. So that is all the books that I read. Now, if that's all you want to, that's all you are here for and want to listen to, you're free to tune out. But now I'm going to go over the goals that I had, just kind of wrap up my November reading month. So I did read, excuse me, I read a total of 9 books, which, like I said earlier, I think that is the lowest maybe amount of books that I've read per month so far this year. But I did do a little bit better on my goals. So I had a goal to read 1 nonfiction book, which I did that with Hood Feminism. So go me. Goal to read 2 physical books. I did not do that at all. I did start a physical book, but then just other things happened and I just didn't do that. And then I have a goal to read 3 diverse books, meaning books by marginalized people or somebody that is just different from my own, which I am a bisexual white woman. So I did great with that. So we have The Scent of Us Part 1 and 2, BIPOC author. The Hood Feminism is by a Black author. Horde Kings of Shadows, Zoe Draven is of Asian diaspora something. So BIPOC author, and then Blockshot, Kennedy Ryan is a Black author. So I feel like I did pretty well with trying to continue to read diversely. So that will be the end of my wrap up, all the books that I read in November. If you had a favorite book that you read in November, please leave a comment down below. I love hearing from you all and talking with you all. If you like this video, make sure to hit the thumbs up button and then also subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. Really appreciate it. Otherwise, that is going to be it, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.